I found my mother's lipstick on my white walls before I found her standing in my living room, laughing. That's how it started. The worst night of my life. The night I invited my family to see the one thing I'd built entirely on my own, and watch them tear it apart like it meant nothing. My name is Petra, and this is the story of how my family destroyed my dream home. And how I made absolutely sure they understood what that cost them. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to celebrate you, stay with me. You're going to want to hear this. Let me take you back 6 months. I was standing in an empty house in Portland, Oregon. Hardwood floors that needed refinishing. Walls that needed paint. Windows that let in this perfect golden light at 4 in the afternoon. It wasn't much. But it was mine. I'd saved for 7 years. 7 years of working 2 jobs, living in a cramped studio apartment, skipping vacations, saying no to dinners out. My friends thought I was crazy. My family thought I was obsessed. But I had this vision. This dream of a place that was completely, undeniably mine. No landlord. No roommates. No one to tell me what I could or couldn't do. My own home. I signed the papers on a Tuesday. I remember because my hand was shaking so hard I could barely hold the pen. The real estate agent smiled at me and said, "Congratulations, Petra. You did it." And I had. At 32 years old, I'd done something no one in my family had ever done. I bought a house. All by myself. The next 4 months were a blur of paint samples and furniture catalogs and YouTube tutorials on how to install light fixtures. I learned how to use a power drill. I sanded every inch of those hardwood floors myself. I spent weekends at estate sales finding the perfect vintage mirrors, the right throw pillows, the exact shade of blue for my bedroom walls. Every evening after work, I'd drive to the house. Sometimes I'd just sit on the floor in the empty living room and look around. This was mine. I built this. Not my parents. Not my siblings. Me. My older sister, Caroline, called me once during those months. She asked how the little project was going. I could hear the air quotes in her voice. Caroline lived in a massive house in Seattle, paid for by her husband's tech money. She'd never worked for anything in her life. "It's going great," I told her. "You'll have to come see it when it's done." "Maybe," she said. "If we have time." That should have been my first warning. By October, the house was finished. It was perfect. Better than I'd imagined. The living room had these floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out onto a small garden I'd planted. The kitchen had new countertops, quartz, because I'd saved an extra 2 months just for that upgrade. My bedroom felt like a sanctuary. Soft blue walls. White bedding. A reading nook by the window. I took photos of every room. I wanted to remember this feeling. This pride. And then I made a decision that I'll regret for the rest of my life. I decided to have a housewarming party. And I invited my family. My mother, Susan. My father, Richard. My sister Caroline and her husband, Brad. My younger brother, Marcus. I sent out a beautiful invitation. Printed on thick cardstock. Gold lettering. The date, the time, my new address. I even wrote a personal note on each one. "Can't wait to share this with you. Love, Petra." If you've ever dealt with a toxic family and you're watching from wherever you are right now, leave me a comment. Tell me your city. Because I need you to know you're not alone in this. And neither was I, even though it felt that way. The party was set for a Saturday evening at 6. I spent the entire day cooking. homemade lasagna, caprese salad, garlic bread, a chocolate cake from scratch because I remembered that was Caroline's favorite. I set the dining table with actual cloth napkins. I put out fresh flowers. I even made a playlist, soft jazz, nothing too loud, just enough to fill the space. At 5:45, I stood in my living room and looked around one more time. Everything was perfect. The doorbell rang at 6:30. Half an hour late, but who's counting? I opened the door with the biggest smile. My mother walked in first. She was wearing a white pantsuit and heels that clicked on my hardwood floors. She didn't hug me. She walked past me, looked around, and said, "Huh. It's smaller than I thought." My father followed. He nodded at me. Didn't say congratulations. Didn't say anything, really. Then came Caroline and Brad. Caroline was holding 2 bottles of red wine. "We brought drinks," she announced, like she was doing me some enormous favor. Brad was already on his phone. Marcus showed up last, with a girl I'd never met. "This is Jenna," he said. "Hope it's cool I brought her." No one asked for a tour. No one complimented the paint colors or the floors or the garden outside. My mother walked straight to the kitchen, opened the wine, and poured herself a glass. "So," she said, turning to face me. "How much debt are you in?" I felt my stomach drop. "I'm not in debt, Mom. I saved for this." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Petra, come on. You're a receptionist. There's no way you could afford this on your own." "I worked 2 jobs for 7 years, I said quietly. "I saved everything." Caroline walked over, wine glass in hand. She was looking at my walls. "Is this regular paint or did you get the expensive stuff?" "It's mid-grade," I said. "I did it myself." "You can tell," she said. Brad snorted. My father sat down on my couch, the couch I'd spent 3 months saving for, and put his feet up on my coffee table. Shoes on. Dirty shoes on my white coffee table. "Dad," I said. "Could you?" "Relax, Petra," my mother said. "It's just a table." Marcus and Jenna were in the corner, taking selfies. Jenna was leaning against my wall. The wall I'd painted. Touching it with her hand, her wine glass inches away from the white surface. I opened my mouth to say something. And then I heard it. The sound of glass shattering. I spun around. Caroline was standing in my kitchen, holding an empty wine bottle. Red wine was spreading across my white tile floor. She was laughing. "Oops," she said. "Slippery." "Caroline," I said. My voice was shaking. "That's fine. Accidents happen. Just let me." "I'll get paper towels," she said. But she didn't move. She stepped over the wine, walked to my counter, and poured herself another glass from the second bottle. I grabbed the paper towels and got down on my knees. I was scrubbing the tile, watching the red stains spread. My hands were shaking. No one else moved. No one offered to help. My mother was in the living room, running her finger along my bookshelf. "You know, Petra, I always thought you'd end up renting forever. This is quite the surprise." "Thanks, Mom," I said from the floor. I didn't mean it as a compliment. I stopped scrubbing. I looked up at her. She was smiling. That thin, cold smile I'd seen my entire life. The smile that meant she was about to say something that would cut straight through me. "What I mean is," she continued, "you've always been so ordinary. Caroline has her big house, Marcus is finishing his master's degree. And you're here. In your little house. Playing grown-up. Caroline laughed. Brad laughed. Marcus didn't say anything, but he didn't defend me either. I stood up slowly. Dinner's ready, I said. If you want to eat. We sat down at my table. The table I'd found at an estate sale and refinished myself. The table I'd been so proud of. I brought out the lasagna. The salad. The bread. No one said it looked good. No one thanked me. My father cut into his portion and said, "It's cold." "It's been sitting out for 30 minutes while I cleaned up the wine," I said. "Maybe next time use the oven to keep it warm," my mother suggested. That's what I do. We're right at the halfway point of this story, and if you're feeling that familiar burn of family betrayal, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next is when I stopped being the doormat and started being the architect of my own justice. Caroline leaned back in her chair. So, Petra. Are you seeing anyone? No, I said. Still single, then. She exchanged a look with my mother. You know, you're not getting any younger. If you want kids. I don't want to talk about this, I said. I'm just saying. You spent all your money on a house. Maybe if you'd focused on finding a husband instead. Caroline, I said. Stop. She held up her hands. I'm just looking out for you. Marcus knocked over his water glass. It spilled across the table, soaking the napkins, dripping onto my refinished chairs. Jesus, Marcus, Caroline said. He shrugged. My bad. No one moved to help. I grabbed more napkins. I mopped up the water while they kept eating. And then my mother said it. The thing that broke me. You know, Petra, I think this whole house thing is really just you compensating. You're trying to prove something to us. But you don't have to. We love you even if you're not as successful as your siblings. I froze. The napkin in my hand was soaking wet. Water was dripping onto my lap. I looked around the table. At Caroline, smirking. At Brad, scrolling on his phone. At Marcus, oblivious. At my father, who wouldn't even look at me. At my mother, with that same cold smile. And something inside me snapped. They left around 9. No one helped clean up. No one said thank you. Caroline took the leftover cake without asking. My mother kissed me on the cheek and said, next time, maybe host something smaller. Like a barbecue. Those are easier. I stood in my doorway and watched them walk to their cars. And then I closed the door. I turned around and looked at my house. Red wine stains on the kitchen floor that wouldn't come out. Water damage on my dining chairs. Scuff marks on my walls. Muddy footprints on my white rug. My couch cushions were dented and pushed out of place. My coffee table had a scratch from my father's keys. But the worst part? The absolute worst part? They thought they'd done nothing wrong. I sat down on my floor. Right there in the entryway. And I cried. I cried for 7 years of saving. I cried for every double shift and skipped meal and cancelled plan. I cried for the little girl I used to be, who always thought if she just worked hard enough, her family would finally see her. And then I stopped crying. I pulled out my phone. And I started making calls. Here's what most people don't know about revenge: it's not about anger. It's about precision. I spent the next week thinking. Planning. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to confront them. I was going to show them exactly what they'd lost when they disrespected me. First, I documented everything. I took photos of every stain, every scratch, every mark they'd left. I calculated the cost of repairs. $600. That was what their visit had cost me. Then I started digging. My mother had been planning a charity gala for her book club. She'd been talking about it for months. It was her big social event of the year. She'd invited everyone in her circle, all her wealthy friends, all the people she wanted to impress. And she'd asked me, 3 months ago, to help with the catering. Because I was good at that kind of thing. Translation: I was cheap labor. I'd said yes, of course. Because that's what I always did. But not anymore. I sent her an email. Professional. Polite. Hi Mom, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to help with the gala after all. Something came up. I'm sure you'll find someone else. Best, Petra. She called me immediately. What do you mean you can't help? Petra, I'm counting on you. I know, Mom. But I just don't have the time anymore. You're being childish because of the party. No, Mom. I'm being realistic about my time. You'll figure it out. I hung up. Step 1, complete. Next was Caroline. My sister had a habit of calling me whenever she needed something. Babysitting. Borrowing money. Having me pick up dry cleaning when she was too busy. For years, I'd said yes to everything. The Monday after my housewarming, she texted me, "Can you watch the kids this Saturday? Brad and I have a thing." I stared at the text for a full minute. Then I typed back, "No, sorry. I have plans." What plans? Personal plans. Petra, I really need this. I'm sure you can find a babysitter. There are apps for that now. She didn't respond. 3 days later, she called. What is going on with you? Nothing's going on. I'm just not available to help right now. This is about the wine glass, isn't it? It's about me having boundaries, Caroline. Boundaries? She laughed. You're being ridiculous. Maybe. But I'm still not watching your kids. I hung up. Step 2, complete. Then came Marcus. My brother had borrowed money from me 4 times in the past year. Always with a promise to pay me back. Never did. The total was close to $2,000. I sent him a formal email with an attached spreadsheet. Every loan. Every date. Every amount. Hi Marcus, I need you to start paying back what you owe me. I've set up a payment plan in the attached document. Let me know if you have questions. Thanks, Petra. He called me that night. Are you serious right now? Completely serious. Petra, I thought that was family helping family. It was. But family also pays back their debts. I need that money, Marcus. I don't have it right now. Then you can start with $50 a month. It's all in the spreadsheet. This is insane. No, Marcus. What's insane is thinking you can treat people however you want and face no consequences. Step 3, complete. My mother's charity gala was scheduled for November 15th. Without me doing the catering, she'd scrambled to find a replacement. From what I heard through the family grapevine, it was chaos. The caterer she found was 3 times the price I would have charged her. The menu was wrong. Half the food arrived cold. But that wasn't the real problem. The real problem was the speech. See, my mother had planned to give a speech at the gala. About family. About raising strong, successful children. About the importance of support and love. She'd asked me to help her write it. Months ago. And I'd helped. I'd written half of that speech, the parts about sacrifice and showing up for the people you love. The night of the gala, I got dressed. I put on my best dress, black, elegant, expensive. I did my makeup. I showed up. My mother saw me and froze. Petra. What are you doing here? I bought a ticket, I said. It's a charity event. I'm allowed. I sat in the back of the room and waited. When my mother stood up to give her speech, I watched her carefully. She read from her notes. She got to the part I'd written, the part about sacrifice and showing up. And I raised my hand. Excuse me, I called out. Can I say something? The room went silent. My mother's face went pale. I just want to add, I said, standing up, that those words about sacrifice are especially meaningful. Because I wrote them 3 months ago when my mother asked me to help with this speech. And I think it's important to acknowledge when someone contributes to your success. Don't you, Mom? You could hear a pin drop. Every head in that room turned to look at my mother. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Petra. I'm not trying to embarrass you, I said calmly. I just think credit should go where it's due. That's all. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. I walked out. If you're still with me, leave a like on this video. Because the ending is exactly what my family deserved. The calls started immediately. My mother. Caroline. Even my father, who never called. How could you do that to me? My mother screamed into the phone. How could I do what, Mom? Tell the truth. You humiliated me in front of everyone. No, Mom. You humiliated yourself. You took credit for work that wasn't yours. I just pointed it out. This is about the house, Caroline said when she called. You're punishing us because we weren't excited enough about your little house. It's not a little house, Caroline. It's my house. And you destroyed it. We didn't destroy anything. You left wine stains and scuff marks and water damage and treated me like I was beneath you. In my own home. You're overreacting. No, I said quietly. I'm reacting exactly right. And I'm done. Done with what? Done being the person you call when you need something. Done being the daughter who shows up and helps and gets nothing in return. Done pretending that the way you treat me is okay. Silence on the other end. Petra, she said finally. Family is supposed to forgive each other. You're right, I said. Family is also supposed to respect each other. Celebrate each other. Show up for each other. And you've never done any of that for me. I hung up. It's been 4 months since that night. 4 months since I last spoke to my mother, my father, Caroline, or Marcus. At first, it felt wrong. Like I'd done something terrible. The guilt was crushing. I kept picking up my phone to call them. To apologize. To make things right. But then I'd look around my house, my beautiful, quiet, peaceful house, and I'd remember. I remembered how they'd walked in with disrespect dripping from every word. I remembered my mother's cold smile. I remembered Caroline's smirk. I remembered standing in my kitchen cleaning up wine while they laughed. And the guilt would fade. I started filling my life with people who actually cared about me. Friends who showed up when I invited them over. Friends who said, "This is beautiful," when they walked through my door. Friends who helped me clean up. Friends who celebrated my wins instead of minimizing them. I replanted my garden. I fixed the wine stains, eventually. I bought new chair cushions to replace the water-damaged ones. And slowly, my house started to feel like home again. Here's what I learned. You can't make people respect you. You can't force your family to see your worth. You can work yourself to exhaustion trying to prove that you deserve their love, and they'll still find ways to tear you down. But you can choose to stop participating. You can choose to close the door. To stop answering the calls. To stop showing up for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. That's not cruelty. That's not revenge. That's survival. My family taught me that I was ordinary. Forgettable. Less than. And for years, I believed them. But standing in my house, the house I bought with my own money, that I renovated with my own hands, that I filled with my own dreams, I realized something. I was never ordinary. I was just surrounded by people who needed me to be small so they could feel big. And once I stepped away from them, I could finally see myself clearly. I'm 32 years old. I own a home. I have a career. I have real friends. I have a life I built from nothing. That's not ordinary. That's extraordinary. If you're watching this from your hometown, your apartment, your car, wherever you are, and you've got a family that makes you feel small, I want you to hear this. You are not the problem. You don't have to keep showing up for people who refuse to show up for you. You don't have to keep sacrificing for people who see your sacrifice as weakness. You deserve a table where you're celebrated, not tolerated. And if that table doesn't include your family, build a new one. I did. My name is Petra. This was my story. And I don't regret a single decision I made. If this resonated with you, if you've been there, if you're there now, leave me a comment. Tell me your story. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because we're all in this together. And to my family, if you're somehow watching this, I hope you found someone else to cater your events. I hope Caroline found a babysitter. I hope Marcus figured out his finances. But mostly, I hope you learned that respect isn't something you're entitled to just because you share DNA. It's something you earn. And you never earned mine. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.